my name is Dagmar and I'm a founder of a Designers Atelier. Today I'm here with Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly is a founder of CityGirl Confidence and Graceful Events International, a former French teacher in London. Grace is now teaching others how to create new realities for themselves. Grace had also kindly accepted to come and speak a transformative art of design philosophy at the evening, which we've devoted to Audrey Hepburn. And today I am here with Grace in Italy to ask her about her own journey of self-discovery. Hi Grace.
Hello Dagmar, thank you for coming to Italy.
Thank you for inviting me. You are a former French teacher in London. How come you're now living in Italy? Would you be able to let us know about your current arrangement and how you happen to find yourself in Italy?
Well, I spent 6 years in a classroom in London teaching French to teenage boys, and it was a lot of fun. Very, very energetic and demanding. And at the same time, I was running events in the evening related to health and wealth and business and leadership and lifestyle. So I knew within my teaching career that I wanted to create something else at the same time. I was feeling a little bit uninspired by the educational system and a little bit restrained by what I could and couldn't teach. So I came home one evening to find that a long-term affirmation of mine had manifested. I had spent, I'd say, 6 months telling myself that I was now in a new environment doing what I love.
Okay.
So I came home one evening and I didn't know how this affirmation was going to evolve, but my partner said to me, I've had enough of London. I want to move to Italy. I want to get out. Let's go for a year. Let's see what happens. So I wasn't quite ready to leave the city, and I could feel myself being pulled away. And actually, it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I am now in a new environment, and I'm doing what I love.
That's wonderful. And obviously we know that Audrey Hepburn is actually associated with the city, but she had spent most of her time in the country, in Switzerland.
It's true.
So how do you find yourself being in the country? I mean, after you've lived in the city, living a quite different life in the country, very close to the sea.
Well, I think the biggest difference for me is the vitality and the wellness that I'm feeling and experiencing every day. In the city, I was quite caught up in the rush and the demand and the competition. So I often felt quite disconnected from my intuition. I didn't really take care of my diet, and I suffered quite a bit of burnout. That was a combination, I think, of the fast-paced lifestyle I was living, and not enjoying my job, being in a position where I loved being with children all day. I loved being with teenagers and teaching them, how to create something for themselves in the future. But I just was quite bored with, the same routine day in, day out.
So you were restricted with the certain way of teaching you were expected?
I was certainly restricted.
Yeah.
I think there's a time for a shift in the educational system. Definitely. I find it difficult to teach children to rote learn answers that would then go on test papers and never to be seen or remembered again. I think that our teaching system needs to take another look back at the ancient wisdom and the ancient teachings around, enabling children to learn what they're inspired by, enabling children to learn by observation, which is something that the ancient Egyptians were teaching way back then. I suppose anyone can go to school now and become a professional if they can learn answers I think there's a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that was happening, and coming to the country, if you like, or to the sea rather.
Reconnecting with nature, being surrounded by animals.
Being surrounded by my dogs, being next to the sea, I feel like I've awakened my intuition again.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can hear myself.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't hear myself for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been the greatest difference.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, Audrey Hepburn was able to bring to life amazing opportunities for herself, and obviously she wasn't experienced at the time when she landed the roles with well-known actors.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that, or how do you perceive that, or when did you find yourself perhaps experiencing the same in your life?
Well, I mean, she certainly, Audrey Hepburn certainly did feel very inexperienced for what she was doing. And in many cases, I think that all of us must feel at times inexperienced or unsuitable or not perfect for what we're about to do. And it's really about getting away from yourself, take yourself out of it. And that has really helped me to manifest and to be able to be present with people and attract opportunities.
Would you say you put yourself into a position of an observer for a while?
Yes, that's a great way of looking at it. It is becoming the position of observer.
Mm-hmm.
It's also becoming aware that you have something unique within you that other people can benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
If you take yourself out of the equation a little bit and realize that your purpose is in fact divinely inspired, it's not really about you, it's just why you're here, then I think you come from a place of service that is more natural, and I think Audrey Hepburn embodied that in the sense that we were also able to connect with her because it wasn't just about her, there wasn't a sense of celebrity ego. There was a great down-to-earth groundedness.
And she was also very grateful for her achievements.
Extremely.
And obviously her, charitable initiatives are just a great example of that.
Yeah.
And I would probably say she was also very natural. That's what appealed to so many people. As we know, she was one of the most photographed actresses in the 1950s after the Roman holiday.
That's right.
You have also been on the Roman holiday. How did you feel about discovering a city and perhaps looking at it through eyes with Audrey Hepburn?
Well, I certainly, I've always wanted to go back to Rome, but this time I was going back with, the Audrey Hepburn sort of eyes looking at what was around me. And there's some beautiful places. I mean, she stayed at the Hassler Hotel, which was just stunning, and there is a real sense of Audrey in Rome. The whole dolce vita, the lifestyle, it's rich, it's celebratory, and it's elegant. I think it's one of the best cities in the world that I've ever been to.
I mean, there's obviously something very noble and very, very sophisticated and delicate about her.
Yeah.
That just make her stand out from the actresses of that particular era that looked different, and she was also very knowledgeable and spoke many different languages, which was quite unusual for an actress. Again, it is not unknown that she did have an issues about the confidence.
Yes, she did.
So obviously the many quotes, one of them says, "How could I land in pictures with a face like mine?" Would you be able to tell us about that a bit more, and also what made you set up a CityGirl Confidence?
Yes. Well, I think when she said that, she could hardly believe that she ended up in so many photographs with a face like hers, I think that she, reminds every woman out there that, there is there is no perfection. You don't reach a place of feeling absolutely ready and absolutely confident and absolutely certain. You know, it's not possible. And even here we have someone as elegant, beautiful and successful as Audrey Hepburn, you know, reminding us of this. I think it enables us to gain perspective on, you know, who we are and what we're here to do. CityGirl Confidence was certainly inspired by the idea of, you know, women having more confidence in how they are right now as they are. So, you know, that my initial experience was to enable women to live the life they deserve. And I really believe that if you look at Audrey Hepburn, she got to live the life she deserved. Despite the lack of confidence, despite the insecurities, and despite the ill health. So it's a great testament to every woman out there that, you know, you're going to get the balance at all times. And, you know, you're ready now. You know, believe in yourself, keep your vision strong, and go out there and live the life you deserve. If Audrey did it, so can we.
Well, yes, definitely. And obviously, you know, there are images of her that are available, you know, her cycling to a local market, you know what I mean? So she was also very comfortable with leading, we could say, an ordinary life in the country, which some people found quite unusual. And obviously she did not have a desire to be in a limelight or a spotlight. Would you say that she was actually or eventually able to find a balance, or was able to balance her success in her acting career with a very perhaps ordinary country life?
I think she needed both. You know, today there's a lot of burnout, particularly amongst celebrities. If you look at the rise in addictions, the rise in, you know, even death rates and suicides, you know, the limelight must be extraordinarily difficult to handle for a lot of people who are unprepared. And I suppose the when I say unprepared, what I mean is those who are lacking the confidence to actually, and the worth to actually, you know, be experiencing what they're doing and having. Audrey certainly burnt out a lot despite all of her success. She was often ill, and she retreated to nature and to the country in order to regain the balance.
Surrounded herself with animals.
Yeah, surrounded.
She's a great
That's
lover
right.
of the animals.
So I think that that's an important message to all of us today, that, you know, you must incorporate some downtime for yourself, and you must allow yourself and give yourself permission to have time off. There's only so much pushing and striving you can do before you will burn out, and I've got experience of that myself. You know, I don't know, I think we're living in a culture where retreating and slowing down is not allowed. I'm here to change that.
No, that's wonderful. From my research, I managed to find out that people were pursuing in their life or in their careers what they perceived missing in their childhood. How do you feel about that? Is there a connection between what you're pursuing now and what you perhaps perceived missing in your childhood?
Absolutely. I think that's a great thing that you have uncovered, Dagmar, because there, you know, there are so many people that are searching for purpose. And, you know, what I've discovered is that, you know, your purpose is never missing. It's always evident in your actions, in your style, in your relationships. It's all there. It's likely that what was most missing, indeed, as you point out, is what you then pursue. I know that there are a few teachers out there who do, you know, who do also teach the idea that, you know, your childhood is dictating your destiny. For me, I suppose I was, looking back, I was missing a lot of connection You know, there was quite a gap between myself and my brother in years, and I often kind of went home from school, I recall, and set up my little classroom and pretended there were children in the classroom, and pretended that there were, you know, possibilities to teach from a very young age. So it's no surprise that that vision manifested quite quickly. I've fulfilled that, and I'm now moving on to the next vision. So yeah, your voids definitely dictate where you're headed.
They're sort of a driving.
Yeah, they're a driving force.
Yeah. If you were to perhaps let us know, what were the major turning points in your life? Again, based on research, I feel that the major breakthroughs or the major sort of turning points happened after people had experienced enough pain, or perhaps they perceived whatever was happening as painful, unpleasant, uncomfortable. So would you be able to perhaps share with us your major turning points in your life?
Well, I think that the biggest turning point for me was at the age of 19. For 3 years previous to that, I had been experiencing extremely low self-esteem, which I, you know, perceived every teenager was probably doing. But that kind of manifested in terms of binge eating, bulimia, very distorted relationship with my body and food. And at the age of 19, I recall literally crossing the road, and I didn't care if I was knocked down or not. It just, I think I hit that point of pain that I just knew, this is it, something has to change. And from there, I delved into great research on creating new realities, healing the body, health, overcoming addictions, and I haven't turned back since. I think I've been researching ever since, and you know, I've evolved and developed from there. So that was quite a turning point in my life.
So you've experienced it at quite an early age.
Yes, it was. It was an early age. Yeah.
Was there anything else that kind of perhaps formed a direction, or where you got more clarity on which direction you were going to take, or perhaps refined a direction?
I did go to the island of Corfu when I was about 23 years old. And I remember being on the rocks there overlooking the Ionian Sea, and I was on my own, and I had just a sense of presence, a real sense of, maybe some would call it gratitude, or, you know, I was overwhelmed by the connection to everything around me, which was very strange at the time, but I knew there was something greater to do. And that kind of awakened the whole interest in spirituality and leadership and healing. So from there, I set out on a path to discover how the body works, what you know, what the symptoms mean that we are expressing in the body, how they're related to the emotional and psychological responses that are going on around us. So you could say at that point the mind-body connection was ignited and an interest formed.
How did you manage to incorporate a style into it? Because obviously that was something that was very evident to me when I first met you, that you had an appreciation for beauty on, let's say, an external level, but you know, I know you well enough to say that you have an appreciation of beauty inside. So can you let us know, or perhaps explain a bit more about that?
Well, I've always loved style, you know. I love beauty. It's no surprise I'm in Italy, surrounded by gorgeous Italians. Indulging the senses. Yeah. And I feel that I suppose I felt that spirituality was not stylish. You know, I was kind of joining the London spirituality movement, and there was great connection, but there was no style. You know, it was almost like we had to be a certain way, and everybody was kind of wearing the same type of clothes, and you know.
That's what I have noticed as well.
And I thought, where's the style? If I'm going to be involved in this, it better be
There must
stylish.
be some spiritual people, or you know, that are also stylish and have appreciation for beauty on that level.
Absolutely. But I mean, I think what I uncovered through it all, Dagmar, was that, you know, we are all spiritual. You know, spirit is everywhere. And in every piece of work we do, there is, you know, there's the spiritual element, of course. So I suppose I try to incorporate and naturally embody spirituality and style at the same time, because I feel that a balance of both is needed. I've met a lot of wonderful, you know, healers and you know, people along the way who were in the spirituality movement who simply did not allow themselves to experience any form of lifestyle, wealth, luxury. And I think that's, you know, there's a real disconnect there. I truly believe that we are here to embrace and, you know, enjoy spirit and style. I think when we go one or the other, you know, that's where the imbalance occurs. You get all sorts of people who have great materialism, great style, able to shop in Coco Chanel every day, but they're missing that connection to themselves, or something that I perceive is greater than us, that enables us to feel good.
Or perhaps also express their true self and clothing. So instead of just copying others or going with the latest trends.
Absolutely.
What's interesting is the relationship that Audrey Hepburn was also able to form with one of the greatest fashion designers, Banshee, and obviously as long as he managed to find a right style for her, something that truly expressed her personality through clothing.
That's right.
How do you feel about, obviously, Audrey's style? I mean, it was just something iconic, truly iconic, that is still very much alive.
Absolutely.
Almost 50 years later.
Well, I mean, her style was, in essence, just so simple. And I think that is the key. You know, there are a lot of mistakes made, in my view, by overdoing it. And I think that she was able to embody this simplicity.
The less is more.
The less is more, like many things in life. And I, you know, her connection to nature was also about simplicity.
But it was somehow very chic simplicity. It was something that was also very, you know, very stylish, very refined.
Yes, and I think the help with Givenchy, of course, if you have someone like that working with you and for you, is wonderful. But she didn't like to draw massive attention to herself, and this is something that women can learn from. You know, like you just said, the less is more. And her elegance shone through not because of her clothing, but in how she carried herself.
I think there's another thing where she did mention that the clothing helped her to be more confident in her own skin. So obviously enhanced the, you know, the features that were there, that were useful, perhaps that which she wasn't particularly acknowledging herself. As she felt that there was nothing really special about her.
Yeah, I know, isn't it ironic?
I know, it's very ironic, because obviously, you know, she's still considered to be one of the most beautiful women on the planet Earth, which is, you know, which is incredible. You did touch on a service. Being of service ultimately means fulfilling our purpose. How did you manage to uncover your purpose yourself?
Well, I think it's a work in progress. But I did delve in deeply into understanding who I was and why I was here. I seemed to be on a purpose-seeking mission for about 2 or 3 years.
Well, being a teacher, you know, from an early age.
Yeah, but you know, again, it goes back to looking at you know, really, really being honest with yourself and looking at, you know, what do your actions demonstrate? You know, what are you really spending your money on? You know, I mean, I don't have money for bills, but I'll always have money for makeup and clothes and, you know, wonderful wine, education, books, all of that. And, you know, we just have to learn to be honest with ourselves and not feel guilty. And I think this is where people get themselves into a little bit of difficulty, that they think there should be a certain way, doing a certain thing, maybe following the crowd or doing what mum and dad said. And
the life of others, not their own.
yeah,
they're not having enough courage to live their own
that's right.
life, or being who they are meant to be.
Yeah.
And their life.
It's true. And I mean, there's a leader in all of us. You know, it's about awakening that leadership and being comfortable with yourself, you know, to actually allow yourself to go out and just simply be who you were born to be. I think that it can be quite difficult for people to embrace the fact that maybe they're just really happy, you know, doing the mundane tasks that are everyday life. You know, I've come to Italy and realised that the greatest service that a mother can give here is to cook for her children, is to, you know, take care of the home. And I used to look down my nose at that, thinking that's not much of a purpose. It's a mundane task. It's an everyday task. And, you know, yet these women are the ones that were demonstrating greater happiness than I was, you know. So it's the purpose is an uncovering of the truth, and really knowing why you're here. There is something that you're here to do, and if you go inside and actually ask the questions to yourself, connect to nature, find a time to meditate, or just find a time to question yourself.
Everyone's got the answer within.
The answer is within. And this is coming from someone who spent years spending money on external answers. You know, the answer is within.
Perhaps not believing that the answer was available.
Not believing at all that, you know, the wisdom is there.
You could have the answer, not believing that you actually.
That's right.
Being
too busy. You know, I'm too busy to slow down and really find out the truth. So I'll pay someone else to tell me the truth for me. And this is, again, going back to, you know, that idea of Audrey taking time to retreat after her major productions, going to her country retreat and actually taking time out to be around nature, not doing, being. And enjoying. We've got lost in the whole doing situation and pushing and striving. You know, there are more people feeling guilty about being and doing nothing, and not realizing the great not realizing what can come from actually slowing down and enjoying life. I mean, what is the purpose of life if not to, you know, celebrate it and enjoy it while you're here?
And find a balance.
Yes, absolutely. Whilst in balance.
I mean, we did touch on the uncomfortable, perhaps comfort zone.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? And obviously, we all have found ourselves in, you know, in an uncomfortable comfort zone at some, you know, a point in our lives. Would you say it kind of helped you to perhaps make a next move, or it helped you to clarify your direction? Yes, and I mean, I think you put it beautifully, the uncomfortable comfort zone. You know, I was earning a salary, great. I had a full-time job, you know, somewhere to go in the midst of the recession. You know, I was secure. That did not take away from the discomfort I felt in being somewhere that I just didn't feel I was supposed to be anymore. So the uncomfortable comfort zone also manifests in many ways. You know, you can see it in people's lives all the time. You know, they maybe spend their weekends drinking, or maybe they spend, you know, maybe their body, like mine, got constantly sick. You know, the body, I believe, is always wakening you up to the fact that you're lying about your reality.
So I spent about, I would say, 3 years lying about my reality
Okay.
in that uncomfortable comfort zone. And when the pain was great enough and the manifestation came through, it was time to get out. You know, I'm still in an uncomfortable comfort zone to a degree. I think you manifest the next level, you know, or a new form. But this time I feel a lot more aware that I'm in charge of what is created next.
Yeah.
So if I want to move out of the uncomfortable comfort zone, it's up to me.
Yeah. It's not someone dictating something which you're kind of expected to obey, perhaps. So it's a different level.
It is. It feels
Yeah.
like an awareness now. Yeah.
Obviously, you know, Audrey and her initiatives at her later life were all associated with charity. And, you know, she had made a huge contribution moving away from acting, you know, devoting herself completely to work for a charity. And we do know that she had suffered greatly in her childhood during the Second World War. So she felt she had to repay back. Would you say that people are perhaps doing enough in terms of a charity these days?
I think there are a couple of ways of looking at it. You know, there is a need for you know, giving back, but you could be someone who's doing that in terms of your work and your purpose. You know, Audrey, we have to remember, was really driven by the void of not being able to have children for so long. She wanted to be around children, and she suffered as a child. So it was inevitable that she would end up within, you know, the charities related to children.
Children around the world.
And I think that, you know, in giving we receive. So there's a lot of people kind of talk about, you know, doing something for charity, and they forget that actually they're getting something out of it too. So I think, again, it goes back to balance, that we're all doing things where we benefit and where the other company, person or charity is benefiting. It's just up to your own values and ethos as to how you give back to the world.
This other thing that I have mentioned, I mean, I have only analysed Coco Chanel, Audrey Hepburn and Mother Teresa, and from my research I managed to find out that all of these women had an issues around man. And obviously they whether lost their fathers at a very young age, as was the case of Coco Chanel or Mother Teresa. But we know that Audrey was abandoned by her father and managed to reconnect with him at the later stage in her life. How would you say this is having an impact on the woman itself in forming her own relationships with man?
It's a big part of, you know, what you go on to create for yourself, the father figure. And, you know, Coco Chanel did have quite a tragic, you know, experience with the man that she was with, because he died, and the father abandoning her. You know, she threw herself into her work after that. I think that we are very impacted by our childhood situation, and if there have been difficult relationships or maybe a lack of relationships, we potentially grow up to not trust that we can enjoy or create a long-lasting relationship. I don't think that we should, in fact, think that way. Just because something's been missing in childhood or wasn't nice in childhood doesn't mean we have to attract the same experience again.
Unfortunately, that's what tends to happen.
Yeah.
People repeat the pattern
They do.
until they're able to acknowledge or see it for what it is, and then that's when they can break the pattern and perhaps find themselves in creating something that's different.
Yeah.
And as we know, Audrey succeeded in her third attempt.
She did. I mean, she was such a romantic. She wanted, she said, she had a lovely quote about, she had a need for affection. She loved to give affection, but she had an even greater need to have affection. I teach women that there's no man out there is going to give you what you can't give yourself. And when women come to me with this issue around, I can't get a relationship, I can't keep a relationship, we usually uncover this pattern, as you described it, of expecting the man to fulfill something that we can't fulfill ourselves. And the first port of call is to realize that, in loving ourselves first, in giving to ourselves first, whether that's the gorgeous bouquet of flowers that you're expecting, or simply, connecting to the self and listening and being gentle with the self. How you treat yourself is how you are then treated externally. So it's time to let go of the pattern, let go of the idea that what you didn't have in childhood or what you did have in childhood has to be repeated. It's time to go within, and that's where you awaken the place of power to create what you would love in your life, whether it's a man, a new home, wealth, a new job.
The other thing I'd like to ask about is a career versus family. As we know, Audrey really wanted to, after her second marriage, we know she decided to give up her acting completely and have another child and become a housewife. How would you perhaps explain the relation between career and family? Because some people tend to throw themselves into one or the other, but those who have both perhaps struggling to find a balance.
And I think that's the key point. You can have both, but you must have balance. So if you're going to empower one area of your life, for example your career, and focus all your energy there, then it's inevitable that the other areas of your life are going to somewhere along the line suffer. So the key is in finding the balance between career and family. And the way I look at it really, Dagmar, is that a family is purpose. A family, and creating a wonderful family and actually enabling your children or your husband to do what they would love is a pretty big purpose to actually create and live. So rather than disconnecting the whole the pieces, she's barking.
Hi.
Rather than disconnecting the pieces,
We're surrounded here by dogs, by
yes.
the way.
I think it's better to not separate them and embrace both with balance. We can have both, and it would be worth researching all the women who did have both at the same time, because they are out there.
Yeah, I think that's next on my list,
Yeah.
really. I mean, I do not have children. You do not have children as yet, so it's something that is to come, and perhaps something to be incorporated into our lives.
That's
so,
right. I think so, and I think the way that I look at it is, that's part of the purpose. It's not separate from the purpose. The relationship, the children, the dogs, they're all part of the purpose. So how does having this enable me to live my purpose even more so is the question.
Yeah. We have mentioned we're surrounded here by animals.
All the dogs.
Yeah, all the dogs. So tell us how perhaps nature has impacted you in terms of reconnecting with yourself. How surrounded by animals helped you to reconnect with yourself? As we know, Audrey was a great animal lover. She loved animals. The many photographs of her, surrounded by animals. So tell us about the nature you see in the animals.
Well, I just didn't have time for the animals or the nature in London. And I think it's impacted hugely because, you know, animals teach us, you know, how to be, you know. Just to be. They're not trying to be somebody else. They're not trying to compete with somebody else. They're not trying to rush something. You know, they're just being. And that's been a great lesson for me because as I have sat in the sun for some time and at times felt a little guilty, I've just looked at them and thought, no, this is how we're supposed to be, you know. They enable us to reconnect with ourselves, as does the sea and this, you know, just being around, you know, the greenery. I think it just really impacts your senses. It's an energy we're not aware of. But now seeing the vitality difference between me in London and me here by the sea, I can feel the difference. And that for me has been a huge lesson.
Okay, that's wonderful. And now I've got a question for you, one final question. If everyone on earth could hear your message, what would your message be to humanity?
Wow. Well, my message to humanity would be that, you know, you are creating your own reality. Every day you can start afresh, you can start anew, nothing is set in stone. And so go and create what you would love. There's no lack in the universe. There's no disease in the universe. There's only you deciding what you can and can't have. And that's been my experience for the last 11 years. So create your own reality and do it beautifully.
Get paid for it.
And get, of course,
Loads.
get paid for it. Make it stylish, of course.
And make it stylish.
Make it stylish, simple and stylish. This is the way forward. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dagmar. Thank you so much.
Amazing interview.